The whiskey burned going down, but not as much as the looks from the men gathered around the table when Adam Calloway announced he was going to marry Zelda Brennan, the saloon woman with a past darker than a moonless prairie night. "You are making the biggest mistake of your life," Sheriff Tom Hardy said, setting his glass down hard enough to rattle the worn wood. "That woman has been with half the territory. She ran with the Dawson gang before they got strung up in Prescott. There are stories about her from Denver to Santa Fe that would curl your hair." Adam met the sheriff's eyes without flinching. It was late spring in 1878, and Jerome Junction, Arizona Territory, was still rough around the edges, a mining town that had sprouted up in the hills where copper veins ran deep and men came seeking fortune. The Lucky Strike saloon smelled of tobacco, sweat, and broken promises, but Adam had made up his mind 3 weeks ago when he had first really looked at Zelda Brennan and seen past what everyone else claimed to see. "I appreciate your concern, Tom, but I know what I am doing. Do you?" His ranch foreman, Pete Swanson, leaned forward. "Adam, you have built a decent spread out there. 300 head of cattle, good water rights, a house that does not leak when it rains. You are 26 years old with your whole life ahead of you. Why would you throw it all away on a woman like her?" "A woman like what?" Adam kept his voice level, but his jaw tightened. "You know exactly what we mean," Pete said. "She has been working in saloons since she was old enough to pour whiskey. Word is she killed a man in Colorado. Maybe more than one. She is trouble, Adam, pure trouble." Adam pushed back from the table, the chair scraping against the rough floorboards. "She is 24 years old and deserves a chance at something better. I am going to give her that chance." "She will break your heart or get you killed," Tom predicted. "Mark my words, Calloway, this will not end well." But Adam had already made his decision. He walked out of the Lucky Strike into the warm Arizona evening, the sun painting the desert hills in shades of copper and gold that matched the ore the miners pulled from the earth. He had not told anyone the whole truth about why he wanted to marry Zelda. It was not just because she was beautiful, though she was, with dark hair that fell in waves past her shoulders and eyes the color of storm clouds before rain. It was because 3 weeks ago he had been drunk enough to get into a fight with a card cheat, and Zelda had stepped between them before shots were fired. "He is not worth hanging for," she had told him, her hand on his chest, and something in her voice had cut through the whiskey fog. She had looked at him like she actually cared whether he lived or died, and that was more than most people in Jerome Junction had ever done. Adam had grown up an orphan in Missouri, bounced between families who saw him as free labor more than a child. He had headed west at 16 with nothing but the clothes on his back and a stubborn refusal to quit. 10 years later, he had carved out a life in the Arizona Territory through sheer determination and back-breaking work. He knew what it meant to be judged for circumstances beyond your control. He knew what it felt like when no one believed you could be more than what they expected. He found Zelda in the small room she rented above the general store. She opened the door wearing a simple cotton dress, her face scrubbed clean of the paint she wore when working. She looked younger without it and tired in a way that went bone deep. "Adam," she said, surprise flickering across her features. "What are you doing here?" "I came to ask you properly," he said. "I know I mentioned it the other night, but I want to do this right. Zelda Brennan, will you marry me?" She stared at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. "You should not want to marry me. You do not know the things I have done." "I do not care about your past. I care about who you are now and who you could become. The whole town will turn against you," she warned. "They barely tolerate me as it is. If you marry me, you will lose friends, maybe even business. Then they were not real friends to begin with." He took her hand, calloused from hard work despite her profession. I am not asking you to be perfect, Zelda. I am asking you to be my wife." Her eyes filled with tears, and she looked away quickly, as if ashamed to show that much emotion. "Why? Why would you do this for me?" "Because 3 weeks ago you stopped me from making a mistake that would have gotten me killed or worse. Because when you looked at me, you saw someone worth saving. Maybe I see the same thing when I look at you." She pulled her hand back, wrapping her arms around herself. "You do not know what you are asking for, Adam. The stories they tell about me, some of them are true. I have done things I am not proud of. I have hurt people. I ran with the Dawson gang for 6 months when I was 20. I helped them rob a stage. A guard got shot. Did you shoot him?" "No, but I was there. I was part of it." "And you left that life behind," Adam said. "That counts for something." "I left because they were going to hang us all. I ran before the law caught up. That does not make me noble. That makes me a coward and a survivor." Adam took a step closer. "It makes you smart. And everything you have done since then, working honest jobs, keeping your head down, that shows you want to change. I am offering you a real chance, Zelda. A home. A husband who will not judge you for what you have been." She searched his face for a long moment, looking for the lie, the angle, the hidden cost. Adam understood that too. When you grew up the way they had, you learned that nothing came free. "When?" she finally asked. "As soon as you will have me. Tomorrow if you want. People will talk." "Let them talk." She laughed, but it was a broken sound. "You really mean this, do not you? You actually want to marry me? More than I have wanted anything in a long time." Zelda closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, there was something fragile and new in their depths. Hope, maybe, or the first stirrings of it. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will marry you, Adam Calloway." They were married 3 days later by a circuit preacher passing through Jerome Junction. The only witnesses were Pete, who came despite his disapproval because he had known Adam too long to abandon him completely, and Martha Sullivan, the widow who owned the boarding house where Zelda rented her room. Martha was one of the few people in town who had never treated Zelda with open contempt. "I hope you know what you are doing, girl," Martha told Zelda as she helped her into a simple blue dress she had borrowed for the occasion. "Adam Calloway is a good man, better than most. Do not break his heart." "I am going to try not to," Zelda said quietly. The ceremony was brief and awkward. The preacher clearly knew Zelda's reputation and rushed through the words as if afraid contamination might spread through prolonged contact. But when Adam slipped the simple gold band onto Zelda's finger, his hand was steady, and his voice was firm when he promised to love and honor her. Zelda's voice shook when she made the same promises back, and Adam saw tears tracking down her cheeks that she did not bother to hide. When the preacher pronounced them man and wife, Adam kissed her gently, like she was something precious he was afraid to break. She kissed him back with a desperation that spoke of how long it had been since anyone had touched her with kindness. They rode out to Adam's ranch that afternoon, Zelda's few possessions packed in a single worn bag. The ranch sat in a valley about 5 miles outside Jerome Junction, surrounded by red rock hills and fed by a reliable creek that ran year-round. The house was modest but solid, built from local timber and stone with 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a main room with a fireplace. "It is not much," Adam said as he helped Zelda down from the wagon, "but it is home." Zelda looked around at the land stretching out in all directions, at the cattle grazing in the distance, at the house that looked like something from a dream she had given up on years ago. "It is beautiful," she said, and meant it. That first night they sat at the kitchen table eating the stew Adam had made, the silence between them comfortable rather than awkward. Zelda kept looking around the house like she expected someone to come and tell her she did not belong there. "You can change anything you want," Adam said. This is your home now, too. I have never had a home before, Zelda admitted. Not a real one. My mother died when I was 7. My father drank himself to death 2 years later. After that, it was orphanages and foster families who wanted free labor more than children. I ran away when I was 15, figured I would have better luck on my own. And did you? She laughed bitterly. For a while, I thought so. I worked as a serving girl, then started working saloons because the pay was better. I learned to pour drinks and smile at men and pretend I did not mind when they touched me. Then I met Hank Dawson, and he told me he could show me how to make real money. I was 20 and stupid enough to believe him. What happened? We robbed stages and small banks for 6 months. I was the distraction, the pretty face that made guards lower their defenses. It worked until it did not. We tried to rob a stage outside of Prescott, and the guard was smarter than we expected. He pulled his gun, and Hank shot him. The man did not die, but we knew the law would come hard after that. The gang split up. Hank and his brother got caught a month later and hanged. I ran to Santa Fe, then Denver, then here. And now you are trying to build something different, Adam said. I was trying to survive, Zelda corrected. There is a difference. But this, what you are offering, this is more than survival. This is a second chance I do not deserve. Everyone deserves a second chance, Adam said firmly. Maybe even a third or fourth if that is what it takes. Zelda reached across the table and took his hand. Why are you so good to me? You do not owe me anything. Maybe that is exactly why, Adam said. Because I do not owe you anything. I am choosing this, choosing you, not because I have to, but because I want to. She squeezed his hand, and they sat there in the lamplight. Two people who had spent their lives on the outside finally finding their way in. The next few weeks fell into a rhythm. Adam worked the ranch, riding out before dawn to check on the cattle, mending fences, maintaining the irrigation ditches that kept his small vegetable garden alive. Zelda threw herself into making the house a home. She scrubbed every surface until it gleamed, sewed curtains for the windows from fabric Martha Sullivan helped her pick out, learned to cook on the wood stove without burning everything. She also learned to shoot. Adam insisted on it the third day she was there. Out here, you need to be able to protect yourself, he said, handing her a rifle. I am not always going to be close to the house. If something happens, I need to know you can handle yourself. Zelda took the rifle, the weight familiar in her hands. I already know how to shoot. Show me. They set up targets behind the barn, and Zelda proceeded to put 5 shots in a tight cluster at the center of a wooden board from 50 yards out. Adam whistled low. Where did you learn to shoot like that? Hank Dawson taught me. Said a woman who could shoot was worth her weight in gold. She lowered the rifle, her expression dark. He was not entirely wrong, just wrong about what I should be shooting at. Can you handle a pistol too? In answer, Zelda drew the small revolver she had been carrying under her skirt and put 3 rounds through the same target without seeming to aim. Adam stared at her, reassessing. Anything else I should know about? I am good with knives too, and I know how to pick locks, and I can tell when someone is cheating at cards from across a room. She met his eyes defiantly. Still want to be married to me? More than ever, Adam said. You are full of surprises, Zelda Calloway. The use of her new last name made her smile, small and uncertain, like she was still not used to it. I will try not to disappoint you. You could not if you tried. But the town had not forgotten who Zelda was, and they made sure she knew it. When she went into Jerome Junction to buy supplies, conversation stopped when she entered shops. Women crossed the street to avoid her. The grocer was curt and unhelpful, and the bank manager looked at her like she might rob him right there in broad daylight. She came home from town one afternoon with red eyes and a tense jaw. Adam found her in the kitchen, slamming pots around harder than necessary. What happened? Nothing happened. That is the problem. Nothing ever happens. They just stare at me like I am dirt they scraped off their boots. The women whisper behind their hands. The men leer and make comments they think I cannot hear. Mrs. Patterson told her daughter to come inside when I walked past their house, like I might corrupt her by existing in the same space. Adam pulled her into his arms, and she resisted for a moment before collapsing against him, her shoulders shaking. I thought if I changed, if I became respectable, they might give me a chance. But they never will they? I will always be the saloon woman who ran with outlaws. I will always be trash to them. You are not trash, Adam said fiercely. You are my wife. You are a good woman trying to build a decent life. If they cannot see that, it is their failing, not yours. How long can we live like this, with the whole town against us? As long as it takes. We do not need them, Zelda. We have each other. We have this ranch. That is enough. She pulled back to look at him, her eyes searching. Is it really? What about when you need help with the cattle? What about when you need to borrow equipment or trade for supplies? Pete already thinks you are making a mistake. How long before he and the others stop doing business with you entirely? We will manage. I have managed before on my own. I can do it again. But Zelda was right to worry. Over the next month, Adam noticed the shift. Pete became less available when Adam needed an extra hand. The feed store started charging him higher prices. When one of his irrigation ditches broke and flooded part of his grazing land, none of the neighboring ranchers offered to help, though such cooperation was standard practice in the territory. Adam worked himself to exhaustion fixing it alone, and when he finally collapsed into bed 3 days later, his hands were raw and bleeding, his back screaming in protest. Zelda tended to his injuries with gentle hands and tight lips, clearly blaming herself. "This is my fault," she whispered as she wrapped his hands in clean bandages. "This is their fault for being small-minded and cruel," Adam corrected. "You have not done anything wrong. My existence is wrong to them. My past is wrong. Marrying you was wrong." "Marrying you was the best decision I ever made," Adam said firmly. He caught her chin, making her look at him. "I mean that, Zelda. Every day I wake up with you beside me is better than any day I spent alone. I do not care what they think." "But I care what it is costing you," she said, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You worked so hard to build this ranch, to earn respect in this community, and I am destroying it all just by being here. Then let it be destroyed. I would rather have you and nothing else than have everything and lose you." She kissed him then, desperately, like she was trying to pour all her gratitude and fear and love into that single gesture. Adam kissed her back with equal fervor, and for the first time since their wedding night, they came together as husband and wife, not just in name but in truth, their bodies speaking what words could not quite express. Afterward, lying tangled together in the dark, Zelda whispered, "I love you, Adam Calloway. I did not think I was capable of loving anyone, but I love you so much it terrifies me." "I love you too," Adam said, stroking her hair. "And I am not going anywhere. Whatever comes, we face it together." What came was worse than either of them expected. A week later, Adam rode into Jerome Junction to buy supplies and found a crowd gathered in front of the sheriff's office. Tom Hardy stood on the wooden sidewalk, addressing the assembled townspeople. "We have a serious problem," Tom was saying. "There have been 3 robberies in the past month. 2 homes and the assay office. Nothing major taken, but it is clear we have criminal elements operating in the area." "Do you know who is responsible?" someone called out. Tom's eyes swept the crowd and landed on Adam with an expression that made his stomach sink. "We have our suspicions. The methods used are consistent with the Dawson gang's previous robberies. Small, quick hits, in and out before anyone notices." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, and Adam saw where this was going before Tom even said the words. "And we all know who in this town used to run with the Dawson gang," Tom continued. "I am not making accusations, but I think we need to have a serious conversation with Zelda Calloway about her whereabouts during these incidents." Adam pushed through the crowd, anger burning hot in his chest. "You cannot seriously be suggesting that my wife is involved in these robberies." "I am suggesting that it is a mighty strange coincidence, Adam. She shows up in town, and suddenly we have crimes being committed using techniques she would be familiar with. Zelda has been at the ranch with me. She has not had anything to do with any robberies." "Can you account for her whereabouts at all times?" Tom challenged. "Can you swear she has not left the property when you were out working the land?" Adam wanted to say yes, but he could not. There were long hours when he was far from the house, checking on cattle in distant pastures, mending fences, handling the 100 tasks that kept a ranch running. He had no way to know for certain where Zelda was during those times. "This is ridiculous," he said instead. "Zelda is trying to build a new life. She would not throw that away for petty theft." "Petty theft today, bigger crimes tomorrow," someone in the crowd muttered. "I want to talk to her," Tom said. "Bring her into town tomorrow." If she has nothing to hide, then a simple conversation should clear this up. Adam wanted to refuse, but he knew that would only make things worse. "Fine, tomorrow, but you treat her with respect, Tom. She is my wife and a citizen of this territory, not some criminal you can bully." He bought his supplies in tense silence and rode home faster than was wise, his mind racing. When he told Zelda what had happened, all the color drained from her face. "They think I am robbing people," she said flatly. "Of course they do. Why would they believe I had changed?" "Because you have changed," Adam insisted. "We will go into town tomorrow, you will talk to Tom, and we will clear this up." But Zelda was shaking her head, fear evident in her eyes. "You do not understand how this works, Adam. They have already decided I am guilty. Nothing I say will change their minds. If anything goes wrong, if they find any evidence that points in my direction, they will arrest me. They might even hang me. I will not let that happen. You might not be able to stop it. The law does not protect people like me. It punishes us whether we are guilty or not." Adam pulled her close, feeling her trembling against him. "I will protect you, I promise. We will get through this." But that night, lying awake while Zelda slept fitfully beside him, Adam wondered if he could keep that promise. The town wanted a villain, and they had decided his wife fit the role perfectly. How did you fight against that kind of prejudice? The next morning they rode into town together, Zelda sitting straight and proud beside him despite her obvious fear. The sheriff's office was crowded with concerned citizens, all apparently wanting to witness Zelda's interrogation. Tom gestured them into his private office, though he left the door open so the crowd could hear every word. "Mrs. Calloway, I appreciate you coming in. Did I have a choice?" Zelda asked coolly. "Everyone has choices. That is what this conversation is about. Where were you on the night of May 15th, at home with my husband? Are you certain? May 15th was a Tuesday. That was the night the Peterson house was robbed." "I am certain. I am always at home." "What about during the day, when your husband is working the ranch?" Zelda met his eyes without flinching. "I am at home during the day too, cooking, cleaning, tending the garden, all the things a wife does. And you never leave the property, rarely. Maybe once a week to come into town for supplies, and Adam usually comes with me." Tom leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You have to admit, Mrs. Calloway, it looks suspicious. You have experience with exactly this type of crime. You show up in Jerome Junction, and suddenly we have robberies." "Correlation is not causation," Zelda said sharply. "I have been here for 3 months, If I were going to rob people, why would I wait this long? Why would I risk the life I am building? Maybe you got bored. Maybe you missed the excitement. Maybe your husband's ranch is not doing as well financially as you hoped and you needed extra income. Adam shot to his feet. That is enough, Tom. You have no evidence. You are fishing and you know it. Sit down, Adam. I am just trying to get to the truth. The truth is that my wife is innocent, and you are trying to railroad her because of her past. That is not justice. That is persecution. Tom's expression hardened. I am doing my job. There is a criminal operating in this town, and I would be negligent if I did not investigate all possibilities. Then investigate someone else, Adam snapped. Question people who do not have an alibi. Look for actual evidence instead of scapegoating the easiest target. I am looking into multiple avenues, Tom said stiffly, but I would be a fool to ignore the obvious suspect. Zelda stood, her composure intact despite the anger Adam could see simmering beneath the surface. Are you arresting me, Sheriff? Not at this time, but do not leave town. I may have more questions. I live outside town, Zelda reminded him, on my husband's ranch. Are you ordering me to move into Jerome Junction? Tom scowled. Do not leave the area. You know what I mean. They left the sheriff's office to hostile stares and whispered conversations. Adam kept his hand on Zelda's back, guiding her through the crowd, not stopping until they reached their wagon. That went about as well as I expected, Zelda said quietly once they were moving. He has already decided I am guilty. He just needs to find proof. Then he will be looking for a long time because there is no proof of something you did not do. Unless someone plants evidence, unless someone decides to frame me properly. It would not be hard, Adam. I am the perfect patsy. Everyone already believes I am capable of it. Adam had not considered that possibility, and it sent a chill down his spine. Who would do that? Anyone who wants these crimes solved quickly. Anyone who wants me gone. Take your pick. There are plenty of people in Jerome Junction who would sleep better knowing I was in jail or worse. The thought haunted Adam over the next week. He found himself watching people more carefully when they came to town, looking for signs of deception or malice. He also noticed that someone was watching them. Several times he spotted a man on horseback in the distance, observing their ranch from the hills. When Adam rode out to confront him, the man always disappeared before he could get close. We are being watched, he told Zelda. Someone is keeping tabs on us. Probably the sheriff or someone he hired. He wants to catch me in the act, she laughed bitterly. Except there is no act to catch. Then, 2 weeks after Zelda's interrogation, the bank in Jerome Junction was robbed. It happened in broad daylight, a bold move that netted the thieves nearly $3,000. The description of the robbers was vague, masked figures who knew exactly what they were doing. But someone claimed to have seen a woman matching Zelda's description near the bank that morning. Tom Hardy rode out to the ranch that same afternoon with a deputy and 3 armed men. Adam met them in the yard, his hand resting on his holstered pistol. What do you want, Tom? I have a warrant to search your property and to arrest your wife for bank robbery. You have got to be kidding. Zelda was here all morning. I was with her. According to witnesses, she was in town. Are you willing to lie under oath to protect her, Adam? Because that is what you will be doing. I am not lying. She was here. But even as he said it, doubt crept in. He had been out checking on the southern pasture that morning. He had left before dawn and not returned until midday. He had assumed Zelda was at the house, but he had not actually seen her. Zelda emerged from the house, wiping her hands on her apron. When she saw the sheriff and his men, her face went pale. Mrs. Calloway, you are under arrest for robbery. You need to come with me. I did not rob the bank, Zelda said clearly. I was here all day. Then you will not mind if we search the property. If you are innocent, we will not find anything." Adam wanted to refuse, but the warrant gave Tom legal authority. He watched helplessly as the men tore through his house, appending furniture, pulling apart closets, searching every corner. It did not take them long to find what they were looking for. The deputy emerged from the barn holding a cloth bag. "Found this hidden in the loft, Sheriff. Looks like about $3,000. Adam's blood ran cold. He looked at Zelda, who was staring at the bag like she had never seen it before. "That is not mine," she whispered. "I have never seen that money before in my life." "Of course you have not," Tom said, but his tone made it clear he did not believe her. "Zelda Calloway, you are under arrest for bank robbery. Deputy, cuff her." "No." Adam moved to intervene, but 3 guns pointed at his chest stopped him. "Tom, this is a setup. Someone planted that money. Zelda did not rob the bank. The evidence says otherwise. Step aside, Adam. Do not make this worse." Adam watched in helpless fury as they cuffed Zelda and put her on a horse. She looked back at him, her eyes full of fear and resignation. "I did not do this," she said. "Please believe me, Adam. I did not do this." "I believe you," Adam said desperately. "I am going to fix this. I am going to prove you are innocent." But as they rode away with his wife, Adam had no idea how he was going to keep that promise. The evidence was damning. The town already thought Zelda was guilty, and whoever had framed her had done a thorough job. Adam spent that night pacing the empty house, his mind racing. Someone had planted that money in his barn. Someone who knew the layout of his property, who had access when he was away. Someone who wanted Zelda to take the fall for these crimes. The next morning, he rode into town and demanded to see his wife. Tom allowed it, leading him to the cell where Zelda sat on a narrow cot, her face drawn and exhausted. 5 minutes, Tom said, leaving them with some semblance of privacy. Adam gripped the bars of the cell, wishing he could tear them apart with his bare hands. "Tell me everything you know. Help me figure out who is doing this." "I do not know, Adam. I have been trying to think of who would want to frame me, but the list is too long. Half the town hates me. Any of them could have done it. Think harder. Who has the skills to pull off these robberies? Who would know how to make it look like the Dawson gang's work?" Zelda's eyes widened slowly. "There was another member of the gang, someone who got away when the rest were caught or killed. His name was Jack Mercer. He was Hank's closest friend, and he taught me most of what I knew about robbery. If anyone could replicate our methods, it would be him. Where is he now? I do not know. After we split up, I never heard from him again. I assumed he was dead or in prison somewhere." "What did he look like?" "Tall, lean, dark hair. Had a scar on his left hand from a knife fight. He was good at blending in, being forgettable. That was part of what made him dangerous." Adam thought about the man he had seen watching their ranch from the hills. He had been too far away to make out details, but the description could fit. "If he is here, why would he frame you? What does he gain? Revenge, maybe? Or he wants to keep operating without suspicion. If I am arrested for these crimes, the law stops looking for anyone else. He can keep robbing people and I take the blame." It made a sick kind of sense. Adam left the jail with a new purpose. He needed to find Jack Mercer and prove Zelda's innocence before the town decided to skip a trial and move straight to a hanging. He started by asking questions, carefully and discreetly. He talked to people who had been near the bank during the robbery, to the families who had been robbed earlier. Slowly, a pattern emerged. Several people mentioned seeing a tall, dark-haired man in town on the days of the robberies, someone who was not a regular but who did not stand out enough to be memorable. Adam also went back to his ranch and searched more carefully. In the barn loft where the money had been found, he discovered boot prints that were larger than his own and different from the ones the sheriff's men had left. Someone had been there, had hidden that money deliberately. He took his findings to Tom Hardy, laying out his theory about Jack Mercer. Tom listened with skepticism written all over his face. "So you are saying there is a mysterious outlaw who came to Jerome Junction specifically to frame your wife? Adam, do you hear how that sounds? It sounds like the truth. Someone planted that money in my barn. Someone who knew when I would be away from the property. Someone with the skills to pull off these robberies. Or your wife robbed the bank, hid the money, and is now trying to deflect blame onto a convenient scapegoat from her past. Zelda would not do that. She has too much to lose." "People always think they know their spouses," Tom said wearily, "until they find out they do not." Frustrated, Adam left the sheriff's office and headed to the saloon. If Jack Mercer was in town, someone had to have seen him. The Lucky Strike was busy in the early evening, miners and ranch hands drinking away the day's exhaustion. Adam found Pete Swanson at his usual table. "I need your help," Adam said without preamble. Pete looked up from his whiskey, his expression guarded. "I already told you what I think about your marriage. This is not about what you think. This is about helping me prove Zelda is innocent. What if she is not innocent? She is. Someone is framing her, and I need help finding him before they hang my wife for crimes she did not commit." Something in Adam's voice must have gotten through because Pete's expression softened slightly. "What do you need? Information. Have you seen any strangers in town? Someone who does not quite fit, maybe watching people more than participating." Pete considered this. "There was a fellow who came through about 2 months ago. Took a room at the boarding house, paid in advance. Quiet type, kept to himself. Martha mentioned he was still there, which seemed odd for a drifter. What did he look like? Tall, dark hair. Had a scar on his hand. I noticed it when he played cards one night." Adam's pulse quickened. "Do you know his name?" He told Martha it was John Miller, but that is as generic as names get. Could be an alias. "Could be Jack Mercer," Adam said. "That is the man I am looking for." He headed to Martha Sullivan's boarding house immediately. Martha answered the door in her apron, flour dusting her hands. "Adam, what can I do for you? You have a boarder named John Miller. I need to talk to him." Martha's expression turned cautious. "May I ask why?" "I think he is the one who has been robbing people. I think he framed Zelda for the bank robbery." "That is a serious accusation. And Zelda is facing a hanging for something she did not do. Please, Martha, if you ever cared about her at all, help me now." Martha studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "He is in room 3, but he is not there right now. I saw him leave about an hour ago, heading toward the edge of town. Did you ever see him with anything suspicious? Bags he did not want you to see, odd hours coming and going." "Now that you mention it, he always left after dark and came back before dawn. I thought he might be seeing a woman, so I did not pry. But a few times I heard him moving things around in his room late at night. Heavy things." "Can I see his room?" Martha hesitated, then handed him a key. "If he comes back and finds you there, I do not know anything about this." Adam climbed the stairs to room 3 and unlocked the door. The room was neat, almost obsessively so, but Adam had learned to look beneath surfaces. He searched methodically, checking under the mattress, inside the wardrobe, beneath loose floorboards. He found what he was looking for hidden in a false bottom of a trunk. Masks used during robberies, tools for picking locks, and a ledger with dates and amounts that corresponded exactly to the robberies in Jerome Junction, including the bank. Adam took the ledger and the masks and headed back to the sheriff's office. Tom was more interested this time, poring over the evidence with a thoughtful expression. "This does not prove your wife is innocent," Tom said finally. "It proves that John Miller, or whatever his real name is, was involved. They could have been working together. For God's sake, Tom, Zelda has been in jail. She could not have been working with anyone. Before her arrest, I mean. This could have been a partnership that went bad. Adam wanted to put his fist through the wall. You are reaching. You want her to be guilty so badly that you are ignoring evidence to the contrary. I want the truth, Tom said, and the truth is not always simple. Then hold Miller when you find him. Question him. See if his story matches up. I intend to, but I am not releasing your wife until I know for certain she was not involved. It was not the victory Adam wanted, but it was something. He left the sheriff's office as the sun was setting, his mind already working on the next problem. If Jack Mercer realized his room had been searched, he would run. Adam needed to find him first. He headed to the edge of town where Martha said she had seen Miller going. The area was mostly abandoned buildings and empty lots, places where someone could move unseen. Adam searched for an hour, growing increasingly frustrated when he heard the sound of a horse. He moved toward it carefully and found a man loading saddlebags onto a paint mare. Even in the dim light, Adam could see the scar on his left hand. Going somewhere, Mercer? The man spun, his hand dropping to his gun. Up close, he looked older than Adam expected, lines of hard living etched into his face. His eyes were cold and calculating. I do not know what you are talking about. My name is Miller. Your name is Jack Mercer. You rode with the Dawson gang. You have been robbing people in Jerome Junction and framing Zelda Brennan for it. Mercer's expression did not change. Prove it. I already did. The sheriff has your ledger, your masks, everything from your room at the boarding house. It is over, Mercer. Turn yourself in and maybe they will go easier on you. Mercer laughed, a harsh sound. You really think I am going to hang for this? I was careful. That evidence could belong to anyone. And who is the jury going to believe? A mysterious stranger who has already left town, or the woman with a record who is sitting in a jail cell? Why did you do this? Adam asked. Why frame Zelda? Because she deserves it. She ran when the gang fell apart, saved herself, and left the rest of us to burn. Hank died because of her. She told the law where we were hiding. I spent 3 years in a Colorado prison because of information she gave. That is not true. Zelda left before anyone was caught. Is that what she told you? She is a liar, Cowboy. She made a deal to save her own skin. She fed the law just enough information to sound cooperative without directly implicating herself. And when I finally got out of prison, I decided it was time she paid for what she did. Adam did not know if Mercer was telling the truth or not, but he knew it did not matter. Even if what you are saying is accurate, framing her for crimes you committed is not justice. It is cowardice. Mercer's hand moved toward his gun, and Adam was faster. He drew and fired, his shot hitting Mercer in the shoulder and spinning him around. The older man's gun fell from his hand, and he clutched his bleeding shoulder with a curse. You are going to tell the sheriff the truth, Adam said, keeping his gun trained on Mercer. You are going to clear Zelda's name. Go to hell. Adam cocked the hammer on his pistol. I am not asking. Before Mercer could respond, Tom Hardy appeared with 2 deputies, guns drawn. Drop your weapon, Adam. This is Jack Mercer. He is the one who has been robbing people. He just confessed to framing Zelda. I heard the shot, Tom said. Looks to me like you just shot an unarmed man. He was armed. His gun is right there. Adam pointed to where Mercer's pistol had fallen. Tom had his deputies collect Mercer while he kept his gun on Adam. You are going to have to come to the office and make a statement. This situation has gotten out of hand. At the sheriff's office, Adam told the whole story while Tom's deputy tended to Mercer's shoulder wound. Mercer, for his part, said nothing, just glared at Adam with hatred burning in his eyes. I want a lawyer, Mercer finally said. I am not saying anything without representation. You do not need to, Tom said, surprising Adam. "We have the evidence from your room. We have witness statements putting you near the scenes of the robberies. And we have your wound, which will match Mr. Calloway's story about you drawing on him. That is enough to hold you while we investigate further." "What about Zelda?" Adam demanded. "Are you going to release her?" Tom was quiet for a long moment. "Not yet. I want to verify everything first. But if the evidence supports your wife's innocence, she will be released." It took 3 more days. 3 days of Adam barely sleeping, of visiting Zelda in her cell and promising her that everything would be all right. 3 days of Tom Hardy questioning witnesses, comparing evidence, building a case against Jack Mercer. Finally, on the afternoon of the 4th day, Tom came to Adam's ranch personally. "Your wife is free to go," he said simply. "The evidence shows Mercer acted alone. He planted the money in your barn, committed all the robberies, and tried to frame Mrs. Calloway. He has been charged accordingly." Relief washed over Adam so powerfully he nearly stumbled. "Thank you, Tom. Do not thank me. I was doing my job. I should have looked deeper from the beginning instead of letting prejudice cloud my judgment." Tom met Adam's eyes. "I owe your wife an apology. I let her past dictate how I saw her instead of looking at who she is now." "Tell her that yourself," Adam said. "She is the one who deserves to hear it." They rode into town together, and Tom had Zelda brought from her cell. She looked thinner, exhausted, but her eyes lit up when she saw Adam. "You are free," Adam said, pulling her into his arms. "It is over. Mercer confessed. You are free." Zelda clung to him, her body shaking. "I was so scared. I thought they were going to hang me for something I did not do." "I would never have let that happen," Adam promised. "Never." Tom cleared his throat. "Mrs. Calloway, I owe you an apology. I let your past influence my judgment, and I nearly made a terrible mistake because of it. You are innocent, and I am sorry for what you have been through." Zelda looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Thank you, Sheriff. I appreciate you saying that." They left the jail together, stepping out into the Arizona sunshine. People on the street stopped and stared, and Adam could see the gossip already spreading. But this time, some of the looks were thoughtful rather than hostile. Some people even nodded respectfully. Martha Sullivan met them on the street, tears in her eyes. "I am so glad you are all right, dear. I never believed you were guilty." "Thank you, Martha," Zelda said warmly. "Your kindness has meant more to me than you know." Over the next few weeks, something shifted in Jerome Junction. The story of how Adam had cleared his wife's name, risking his life to prove her innocence, spread through the town. People who had treated Zelda with contempt began to soften. Women who had crossed the street to avoid her started offering cautious smiles. The grocer apologized for his rudeness. It was not a complete transformation. Some people would never accept Zelda, would always see her as the outlaw who had married into respectability she did not deserve. But enough changed that Zelda could walk through town without feeling like an outcast. "It is strange," she told Adam one evening as they sat on the porch of their ranch, watching the sun set over the hills. "I spent so long wanting to be accepted, wanting people to see me as more than my past. And now that some of them do, I realize I do not need their approval. I have you. I have this life we are building. That is enough." Adam took her hand, lacing their fingers together. "You never needed their approval, but I am glad they are finally seeing what I have known all along, that you are a good woman, a strong woman, someone worthy of respect." Zelda leaned her head on his shoulder. "I love you, Adam Calloway. You saved me in more ways than just clearing my name. You showed me that I could be more than what I was. You gave me hope when I had forgotten what that felt like." "You saved me too," Adam said quietly. "I spent so long alone, building this ranch, working myself to exhaustion because I had nothing else. You gave me a reason to care about more than just surviving. You gave me a future worth fighting for." They sat in comfortable silence as the stars began to appear, two people who had found each other against all odds and built something beautiful from the broken pieces of their pasts. 6 months later, Zelda realized she was pregnant. The discovery filled her with equal parts joy and terror. She had never imagined herself as a mother, had never believed she was stable enough or good enough to bring a child into the world. But when she told Adam, his face lit up with such pure happiness that her fears began to dissolve. "We are going to have a baby," he kept saying, wonder in his voice. "We are going to be parents. Are you sure we can do this?" Zelda asked. "Are you sure I can do this? What if I mess it up? What if I am a terrible mother?" Adam pulled her close, his hand resting on her still flat stomach. "You are going to be an amazing mother, I know it. And whatever challenges come, we will face them together, just like we have faced everything else." The pregnancy was difficult at times. Zelda suffered from morning sickness that lasted well into the afternoon, and as she grew larger, the Arizona heat became oppressive. But Adam was attentive and patient, taking on extra work around the house so she could rest, bringing her cool water and whatever food she could keep down. The women of Jerome Junction, surprisingly, rallied around her. Martha Sullivan organized a quilting circle that made baby clothes and blankets. Other women stopped by the ranch to offer advice and support. Zelda found herself building friendships she had never expected, connections with other mothers who saw past her history to the nervous woman preparing for her first child. In late February of 1879, during a cold snap unusual for the territory, Zelda went into labor. Adam rode frantically for the midwife, a capable woman named Sarah Chen, who had delivered half the babies in Jerome Junction. Sarah arrived to find Zelda pacing the kitchen, breathing through contractions, determined to stay calm. The labor lasted 14 hours, long and exhausting. Adam stayed by Zelda's side the entire time, holding her hand, whispering encouragement, refusing to leave even when Sarah suggested he might be more comfortable waiting outside. "I am not going anywhere," he said firmly. "We are doing this together." When their son finally entered the world just after dawn, red-faced and squalling with healthy lungs, Adam wept openly. Sarah placed the baby in Zelda's arms and she stared down at him with an expression of awe and disbelief. "We made this," she whispered. "This perfect little person. We made him." "What should we name him?" Adam asked, stroking his son's soft hair. Zelda thought for a moment. "Thomas, after my father before the drinking took him, Thomas Calloway." "Thomas," Adam repeated, testing the name. "It is perfect." The first few weeks with a newborn were chaotic and exhausting. Thomas had a powerful set of lungs and used them frequently, especially at night. Adam and Zelda took turns walking him, rocking him, singing to him until he finally settled. They stumbled through those early days in a fog of sleep deprivation and overwhelming love, learning to be parents through trial and error. Martha Sullivan was a frequent visitor, bringing meals and offering to hold Thomas so Zelda could rest. Other women from town stopped by as well, creating a support network that Zelda had never experienced before. "I never thought I would have this," she told Martha one afternoon as they folded baby clothes together. "A family, friends, a place where I belong. I spent so long running, so long believing I did not deserve anything good, and now I have everything." "You deserve it, dear," Martha said firmly. "You have worked hard to build this life. You have changed and grown. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise." As Thomas grew from a newborn to an infant to a toddler, Adam's ranch continued to prosper. With Zelda's help, they expanded their herd, improved their land, and built a reputation for quality cattle. Pete Swanson became a regular visitor again, his initial disapproval replaced by respect for what Adam and Zelda had built together. He became Thomas's honorary uncle, teaching the boy to ride almost before he could walk properly. When Thomas was 3 years old, Zelda became pregnant again. This time, the pregnancy was easier, her body knowing what to expect. She gave birth to a daughter in the spring of 1882, a tiny thing with dark hair like her mother and her father's steady gray eyes. They named her Catherine, and Thomas was instantly smitten with his baby sister, insisting on helping with everything from diaper changes to feeding. Life settled into a rhythm of ranching and raising children, of community events and quiet evenings at home. Adam proved to be a patient, loving father who taught his children to ride and rope, to treat animals with respect, to value honesty and hard work. Zelda discovered that motherhood suited her in ways she had never imagined, that the skills she had learned surviving on her own translated into fierce protectiveness and resourcefulness when it came to her family. The town's attitude toward her had completed its transformation. She was no longer Zelda the outlaw or Zelda the saloon woman. She was Mrs. Calloway, a respected member of the community, someone other women sought out for advice, someone whose opinion mattered in town discussions. On a warm evening in the summer of 1885, Adam and Zelda sat on their porch watching Thomas, now 6 years old, teaching 3-year-old Catherine how to catch fireflies in the gathering dusk. The ranch had grown to over 500 head of cattle, and they had hired 2 permanent hands to help with the work. The house had been expanded to include 2 more bedrooms and a proper parlor. Everything they had built was solid and real, a testament to years of hard work and determination. "Do you ever think about where we started?" Zelda asked, leaning against Adam's shoulder. 7 years ago, when you asked me to marry you and everyone said you were making a mistake. "I think about it all the time," Adam admitted. "I think about how different my life would be if I had listened to them, how empty." "I was so scared," Zelda confessed. "I was sure I would ruin everything, that I would destroy your life and break your heart. You did the opposite. You made my life worth living. You gave me a family, a purpose beyond just working the land. You taught me what it means to truly love someone." "You saved me," Zelda said, tears glistening in her eyes. "I know everyone talks about how you proved my innocence, how you fought for me when I was arrested. But you saved me long before that, when you looked at me and saw someone worth believing in, when you offered me a chance to be more than what I had been." "We saved each other," Adam said, kissing the top of her head. "That is what marriage is supposed to be. 2 people making each other better, stronger, more complete." They watched their children play in the fading light, Thomas patiently showing Catherine how to cup her hands gently around the fireflies before releasing them back into the night. The air smelled of desert sage and the promise of rain, and somewhere in the distance, a coyote called to its mate. "Are you happy?" Adam asked. "Happier than I ever thought possible," Zelda answered without hesitation. "There are still hard days, still moments when I remember who I used to be and wonder if I deserve all this. But then I look at you, at our children, at this life we have built, and I know that I am exactly where I am supposed to be. You deserve every bit of happiness, Zelda. Never doubt that." As the years continued to pass, their family grew and evolved. Thomas developed Adam's quiet strength and Zelda's sharp intelligence, becoming an exceptional horseman and a natural leader. Catherine inherited her mother's beauty and her father's steady temperament, growing into a confident young woman who could out-rope most of the ranch hands by the time she was 12. In 1888, Zelda gave birth to their 3rd child, another son they named James. He was a surprise baby, conceived when Zelda was 34 and Adam had assumed their family was complete. But James brought new joy to their household, a laughing, energetic child who seemed determined to explore every corner of the ranch. The work of raising 3 children and managing a growing ranch kept them busy. But Adam and Zelda always made time for each other. Sunday mornings were sacred, a time when they would ride out together to the far edges of their property, just the two of them, remembering what it felt like to be newlyweds discovering each other. "You have any regrets?" Zelda asked him one Sunday as they sat by the creek that ran through their land, their horses grazing nearby. Adam considered the question seriously. "I regret that it took me so long to find you. I regret the years we could have had together if we had met earlier. But I do not regret a single decision I have made since the day I asked you to marry me. Even when the whole town was against us, even when things were hardest, especially then," Adam said firmly. "Those hard times showed me what we were made of. They proved that what we had was strong enough to survive anything. I would go through it all again if it meant ending up here with you." Zelda smiled, the expression transforming her face. At 40, she was more beautiful than she had been at 24, her beauty deepened by experience and happiness, by the knowledge that she was loved completely. The shadows that had haunted her eyes in those early days were gone, replaced by confidence and peace. "I used to have nightmares," she admitted. "Dreams where I would wake up and none of this was real. Where I was back in some saloon, pouring drinks for men who saw me as nothing more than entertainment. Where you had never asked me to marry you and I was still alone." "You are never going to be alone again," Adam promised. "I am here. Our children are here. This family, this life, it is real and permanent. Nothing is going to take it away." The town of Jerome Junction continued to grow and change around them. The mines produced less copper than they once had, and some families moved on to seek opportunity elsewhere. But the Calloways remained, their ranch a constant in the shifting landscape of the Arizona Territory. In 1890, tragedy struck when Pete Swanson was thrown from a horse and broke his back. The injury left him unable to work, and facing financial ruin, he prepared to sell his small ranch and move to Prescott to live with his sister. Adam and Zelda would not hear of it. "You have been like family to us," Adam told him. "You stood by me when I married Zelda, even when you did not approve. You have been an uncle to our children. We take care of family." They bought Pete's ranch, combining it with their own land, and built a small house on the property where Pete could live comfortably. They hired a woman from town to help with his daily needs and made sure he was never alone or struggling. Pete wept when they told him the plan, overwhelmed by their generosity. "I was wrong about you," he told Zelda. "When Adam said he was going to marry you, I thought you would ruin him. Instead, you made him into a better man than I ever gave him credit for being. And you became one of the finest women I have ever known. I am sorry it took me so long to see it." "You see it now," Zelda said, squeezing his hand. "That is what matters." The act of kindness rippled through Jerome Junction, cementing the Calloways' reputation as people of character and compassion. Zelda, who had once been the town pariah, became someone people turned to in times of trouble. She organized relief efforts when a flash flood destroyed several homes. She sat with dying miners and wrote letters to their families. She became a pillar of the community through quiet acts of service and genuine care for others. "You have come so far," Martha Sullivan told her one afternoon, as they worked together preparing food for a church social. "From the woman who could not walk down the street without being insulted to someone the whole town respects and admires. I am proud of you, Zelda." "I had help," Zelda said, thinking of Adam, of the women who had befriended her despite her past, of the second chances she had been given. I could not have done it alone. Maybe not. But you did the work. You chose to change, to be better, to build something meaningful. That was all you. As their children grew older, Adam and Zelda began to think about the future. Thomas, at 17, was already working the ranch like a seasoned hand, talking about expanding into horse breeding. Catherine, at 14, showed an aptitude for mathematics and business that suggested she might take over the financial management of the ranch someday. James, at 7, was still young but showed signs of his father's patience and his mother's determination. "We have built something that will last," Adam said one evening as they discussed their plans. "Something our children and their children will be able to build on." "That is more than I ever dreamed of when I first came to the territory." "It is more than either of us dreamed," Zelda agreed. Two orphans who had nothing, who were told they would never amount to anything, and look at what we created. In 1895, when Thomas was 21, he married a woman from Prescott named Elizabeth Hart. The wedding was held at the ranch, with half of Jerome Junction in attendance. Zelda watched her son exchange vows, saw the love and hope in his eyes, and remembered her own wedding 17 years earlier. "He looks just like you did," she whispered to Adam. "He looks happy," Adam replied. "That is all I ever wanted for him." 2 years later, Thomas and Elizabeth welcomed a son, making Adam and Zelda grandparents for the first time. They named the baby Adam James Calloway, and when Adam held his grandson for the first time, the circle of redemption felt complete. "Your great-grandfather would be proud," he told the infant. "We came from nothing, your grandmother and I, but we built something good, something lasting. And now you are part of that legacy." Catherine, showing her independent streak, announced at 18 that she wanted to attend a teacher's college in Tucson before settling down. Adam and Zelda supported her decision, proud of her ambition and intelligence. She left in the fall of 1898, promising to write every week. James, growing into a thoughtful young man, showed an interest in the law. He spent hours reading legal texts and discussing justice and fairness with anyone who would listen. Adam recognized some of Zelda's passion in his youngest son, the fierce desire to fight for people who could not fight for themselves. "He is going to do important things," Zelda predicted. "I can feel it." In 1900, as a new century dawned, Adam and Zelda celebrated their 22nd wedding anniversary. They were both in their mid-40s now, their hair touched with gray, their faces marked by sun and wind and years of hard work. But when Adam looked at his wife, he still saw the beautiful, frightened woman who had said yes when he offered her a chance at a different life. 22 years, Zelda marveled as they sat on their porch, the familiar stars wheeling overhead. "Sometimes it feels like a lifetime. Sometimes it feels like we just got married yesterday." "Do you remember what everyone said?" Adam asked. "All the warnings, all the predictions that we would fail. I remember. They said I would break your heart. They said I would ruin your life. They said you were making the biggest mistake possible." "They were wrong about everything," Adam said, pulling her close. "Marrying you was not my downfall. It was my salvation. You saved me from a life half-lived, from going through the motions without ever really feeling anything. You taught me what it means to truly love someone, to build a life with a partner, to be part of something bigger than myself. You gave me a reason to be better," Zelda said, tears streaming down her face. "Before you, I was just surviving, just getting through each day without any hope that things could change. You looked at me and saw potential when everyone else saw trash. You believed in me when I did not believe in myself. You loved me when I did not know how to love myself." They sat together in the darkness, holding each other as they had through countless nights over the past 2 decades. Their ranch spread out around them, solid and prosperous, a testament to what two people could build when they refused to give up on each other. Their children and grandchild were healthy and happy, pursuing their own dreams while remaining rooted in the values Adam and Zelda had instilled. "If you could go back," Adam asked, "knowing everything that would happen, all the struggles and challenges, would you still marry me?" Zelda did not hesitate. In a heartbeat, every single time. "You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Adam Calloway. You and our family, this life we built together, it is more than I ever dared to dream of." "Then we did it right," Adam said, kissing her forehead. "We took something broken and made it whole. We took two people who were lost and helped them find their way home." As they sat together under the vast Arizona sky, the stars bearing witness to their love story, Adam and Zelda knew that whatever challenges the future might bring, they would face them together. They had survived prejudice and false accusations, financial struggles, and the harsh realities of frontier life. They had raised good children and built a legacy that would endure long after they were gone. The cowboy had married the woman everyone warned him about, and she had become his salvation. And in doing so, they had saved each other, proving that love and faith could overcome any obstacle, that second chances were real, and that sometimes the best decisions are the ones everyone tells you not to make. Their story became legend in Jerome Junction, told and retold to new generations, as an example of what was possible when you looked past the surface to see the person underneath. The outlaw woman and the cowboy who believed in her became symbols of redemption and second chances, proof that your past did not have to define your future. And as the years continued to pass, as they grew old together surrounded by children and grandchildren, and the land they had worked so hard to build, Adam and Zelda never forgot those early days when everything was uncertain. They never forgot the fear and the hope, the struggle and the triumph, the moment when two broken people found each other and created something beautiful. Their love story was not perfect. It was messy and complicated and sometimes painful. But it was real, and it endured, and that was all that mattered. They had found each other against all odds, built a life together when everyone said it was impossible, and created a family that would carry their legacy forward into the future. In the end, the woman everyone warned him about had indeed changed the cowboy's life, but not in the way anyone predicted. She had not destroyed him or brought him down. She had lifted him up, shown him what it meant to truly live, to love without reservation, to believe in the possibility of change and redemption. And together, they had proven that sometimes the greatest love stories are the ones that start with everyone saying it will never work. Because those are the loves that have to fight for survival, that have to prove themselves every day, that become stronger with each challenge overcome. Adam and Zelda Calloway had built more than a successful ranch. They had built a testament to the power of love to transform lives, to heal wounds, to create something lasting and good from the most unlikely beginnings. And that legacy, more than any property or wealth they might accumulate, was what they would pass down to their children and grandchildren. The sun set on another day at the Calloway Ranch, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and red and gold. Adam and Zelda, now in their 60s, sat on the porch they had sat on countless times before, their hands intertwined, their hearts still beating in rhythm after all these years. "I love you," Adam said, as he had said thousands of times before. "I love you too," Zelda replied, as she always did and always would. And in that simple exchange, in the quiet comfort of their enduring love, was everything they had fought for, everything they had built, everything they had become. The cowboy and the woman everyone warned him about, still together, still in love, still proving every day that they had made the right choice all those years ago. Their story was complete, a circle closed, a promise kept. And as the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Adam and Zelda sat together in perfect contentment, knowing they had lived a life worth living, loved a love worth fighting for, and created a legacy that would endure long after they were gone. The end of their story was really just a continuation, passed down through children and grandchildren who would tell it to their own children someday. The outlaw woman who became a pillar of the community. The cowboy who saw past the surface to the heart beneath. The love that conquered prejudice and doubt, and every obstacle thrown in its path. And somewhere in Jerome Junction, in the Arizona territory that would soon become a state, their story lived on, inspiring others to take chances on unlikely love, to believe in second chances, to look past what everyone else sees and find the truth underneath. The woman everyone warned him about had become his salvation, and in saving him, she had saved herself. Together, they had created something that would never die, a love story for the ages, a testament to what was possible when two people refused to give up on each other or themselves.